It's Clay at claytrader.com. This will be my top 10 stocks as we head into Friday, March 28th. This will be a technical analysis breakdown. So if you're someone that uses charts within your trading, or maybe you're just interested in learning more about charts and how they can be used as a tool to help make good decisions as a trader, this would be a video for you. First off, a couple of clarifications. Number one, the candlestick that you see right there will be moving around and changing. That is because the market's still open for a small amount of time. But I like to do these videos when the market is still open because sometimes we can capture some really interesting late day price movement. Second, I'll be using the 30-minute time frame, meaning each one of these candlesticks here represents 30 minutes worth of time. So stock number one, we're going to take a look at ticker symbol MLGO. And this one had quite the mover today. And it kind of fell off people's radars, I think, for a little while. But now with the movement, it is back on the radars. And I think there's a couple of key levels to watch moving forward as we head into Friday. So the first key level that I think a lot of people are going to be watching pretty closely. Oops, let's just get this out of the way. Is this general trend line right there? Did they draw that exact trend line? I don't know about that exact one, but I think something very similar to all that. And when a lot of people are watching the same general area and wondering the same general things, call it self-fulfilling prophecy, call it whatever you want, it can produce some very dynamic movement. So no such thing as a guarantee, but is it valid? Is it plausible that if the price hovers around and then eventually gets up to that area and breaks up through it, that break right there in and of itself could create additional buying pressure? In my opinion, yeah, that is a more than plausible outcome. So certainly keep an eye on that area from a resistance standpoint. And then in terms of areas of support, I would keep a close eye on the purple line right there, the 50-period simple moving average. Keyword being moving, so as time goes by, that line is going to move itself higher and higher. So, and as long as the price stays above there, then the overall trend is still plenty in the bull's favor. But if we use each of these areas and then just turn this into a pattern, so we have this area of resistance, and then if we use the moving average here as a trend line too, we basically have this wedge formation that is formed. So moving forward now, it just becomes a question of, as it bounces back and forth, are the bulls going to get a break to the upside, or the bears going to break to the downside? So grab your popcorn and let's see what happens. Next one here, LYT, big mover today, big volume, and interesting setup because these setups are always fascinating because you got to think at one point the price was that high and then it dropped and dropped and dropped. And when it gets down to this general area, it becomes a very valid question to say, is this a gap and trap? Was just some sort of pump and dump? Is it game over? And at that point, seemingly it is not, because since that point, moving forward, you can see that not only did the price start to go sideways and level out, it actually has a slight little upward slope to it. So let me change that to green for support. So does that guarantee that the pullback is over? No such thing as a guarantee. Is it at least plausible that the pullback is over? Absolutely. Case in point, if the price, let's just say, was still just dropping, and then I'm sitting here saying, hey, it's like looking like this could be bottoming out, you'd be totally justified to say, wait, what are you talking about? Based on what? The price literally just dropping down. But that's not the case here. It has started to slightly go upward. So again, does that guarantee it's bottomed out? It hasn't. Just makes it more plausible, which is also now where the key area of resistance comes into play, and that key breakout area being right there up around the 13-cent mark. So keep an eye on that. Basically a little miniature kind of ascending triangle here. So can the bulls get the break to the upside? We'll see what happens on Friday. Next one here, GME GameStop, and wow, what a catastrophe this was. It had a good day yesterday. You got to give credit where credit's due. I will say at least the price was polite in the sense of at least it didn't come up here, break out, acted like it wanted to be strong, and then pulled that move. It just flat out gapped down and then basically went straight down. So at least it was polite and didn't necessarily sucker people in, but nonetheless, get rid of those lines as they're irrelevant right now. And moving forward, really a couple of two main battlegrounds, because right now, to be fair, it did start to go sideways. Does have a slight little upwards move, but if this upwards move continues, main battleground and the level that I would say I'm not really convinced of any bounces until the price can at least get back above and stay above the pink line there, the 200-period moving average, right now valued at, we'll just call it 23.85. So again, I'm not saying it can't bounce, but I'm just saying that I'm not really convinced of any bounce other than just thinking it's probably a dead cat bounce unless the price can prove itself, and again, quote-unquote prove itself being defined as getting above and staying above that pink line there. In terms of levels of support, no need to overcomplicate this, just a question of, well, where did the bleeding finally stop? And the bleeding finally stopped right there at about $21.15. So very straightforward logic on that one. So if this is truly done bleeding, if it is going to try to curl back upwards, then 21.15 is the level you'd want to see hold strong. Next one here, TSLL, very wild mover, crazy day today when you stop and think about, started here, just a monster move, and then a nasty pullback, and now it's at least leveled out. So all in all, though, the chart continues to maintain itself. I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of that. What do I mean by that? Well, let's just, a little bit of context. Where was all this kind of back and forth happening beforehand? You know, there was a lot of back and forth in this area of the chart. Now it is indeed going back and forth, but not to state the obvious, but just to make sure we're on the same page. This back and forth action is higher than this back and forth action. So overall, the trend is still upwards. So ideally, whenever you have back and forth choppiness, but if those choppiness levels are happening higher than the previous chopping levels, then that still does mean an uptrend is in play. And that's what we have going on here. And that is also where I think a trend line here makes a whole lot of sense. So let me just get this overarching level in play right here. There we go. And I would just say as long as the price, again, let me change that to green. As long as the price stays above there, then overall, that means the price is putting in higher lows. Because if you think about it, the price come down here, make a huge move, come all the way back down there, make a huge move, come all the way back down there. And within that context, you would still be having higher lows. And from an overarching standpoint, that's the name of the game. That's how those overall trends are built. So just watch that from an overarching support standpoint. And then in terms of areas of resistance, seems as though there's a pretty kind of well-defined area right here around the $12 mark. I realize here the price went slightly above it. Here went the price slightly below it. So just trying to find a middle ground, and we'll call that key area of resistance up there at 12. But definitely a pretty wild ride. Next one here, NVDA, and the roughness continues. Talked about this in yesterday's video. Talked about that red line as an area of resistance, and you can see that on the bounce today came up there, and I mean the power of charts right where I had that level mapped out is right where it got rejected back down. And now the price is down below that green line there. So just basic technical analysis. When levels of support are broken and closed below, they tend to act as resistance. And that is what we have occurring right now. Price broke down below it. And you can see right now it is indeed acting as resistance. Good news is it's not like the price is that far away from it. So it could realistically get back above 112.75. But anyway, look at it. If there is going to be any sort of attempted bounce, then 112.75, first key area of resistance, and then 114.50. That second area of resistance. In terms of levels of support, key levels to watch. In fact, let me just get rid of that level as it served its purpose for now. We don't need to have lines and clutter everywhere. But in terms of potential levels of support, no need to overcomplicate it. The bleeding stopped today right down there at around 110.70. So keep a close eye on 110.70. But if the price does go down there and break down below it, that would just be further confirmation that the bears are still not only in control, but gaining that much more control. Real quick, want to take a break and personally invite you to get signed up for this free live online webinar that I'm offering. So if you've been enjoying what you've seen and you want to learn more about this tool, how it can and should be used to build consistency and manage risk, then definitely get signed up for the free live class. If you're watching on YouTube, there's a link down below in the description area you can click on. Or if you're watching right at my website, there's an area on the webpage that you can use to sign up. Now, one special note, it is a genuine live event. So a couple scenarios, maybe you already have something on your schedule this evening, or maybe you're watching this Friday morning and you totally missed it. That's okay. Go ahead, send me an email, clay@claytrader.com, and I'd be happy to send you a link to the replay so that you can watch it at your earliest convenience. But if you can make it live, then definitely get signed up, and I'll see you here in just a few hours. Next one here, looking at GTEC. Good solid pattern here, so let me get this pattern drawn into play. And I think a lot of people are watching this pattern, which brings us back to that talking point of self-fulfilling prophecies when there's a lot of people watching the same general levels and wondering the same general things. No guarantees, but it can create some very nice movements. So let me just keep this the same color so we can make sure to see the pattern. So we have our area of resistance. We have our area of support. We have the big explosive move right there. And then for you golfers out there trying to make it a little bit more visual, put the golf down here. So we have ourselves a bull pennant pattern. Again, no guarantees, but more than valid to think that the price comes up to the top of the pattern and breaks up through it, that break in of itself could create additional buying pressure. So if you like this price range down below $5, you like bull pennants, here you go. Next one here, NIO, and just the downtrend continues. Whoops, whoa. Downtrend continues, and now we got there we go. And now it's kind of a question of, does this buy now actually mean anything? Because to be fair, it gapped down, and then right away, it did not go down. Well, it went down slightly further, but then quickly bounced, and then after the bounce, just went sideways into this little range here, which now brings about a plausible, scenario. Is this some sort of sign that the buying pressure, or the selling pressure is subsided enough where the buying pressure is stepped in? Again, just because something's going sideways does not mean for sure guaranteed it's the bottom, but it goes back to that idea of it's at least plausible to suggest that maybe the selling pressure is done when not only did the price able to bounce, but then just go sideways here. So very simple premise, but it is NIO. A lot of people like to watch this one. It's a borderline cult stock, and when cult stocks start to kind of get in this sort of environment, there can come some very, very dynamic movement. So that's not to say that it'll happen here, but like I said, cult stock, nasty gap down, but it's at least going sideways. So is this some sort of bottom? We'll see what happens. Next one here, ME, pretty crazy mover on the day. And crazy movers, well, if you're a trader, you got to see movement, and that's what we have here. So a pretty basic, I think, setup here in terms of, levels that would be important. And the level that I would certainly call a must-hold level, do or die, whatever dramatic term you want to think of, is right here at 68.5 cents. And the reason why that level is so important, and I'm not saying this will occur, but for explanation's sake, if the price were to come down here and then break down below it, what would you have? You would have the price having gone right back to where it was. And I mean, not to insult your intelligence, but price movements that make big spikes and then go back to where they were, not exactly the sign of true, genuine power. But also, to be fair, nothing can go straight up. So maybe you have a scenario where the price comes down here, bounces around, and then goes back up. Well, now all of a sudden, what would you have? Well, from the bigger picture, you'd have a set of lows right here. You'd have lows right there. And then, again, emphasis on big picture. From the bigger picture, at least you'd have stair-steps progressing in the upwards direction. So 68.5 cents, I would consider a kind of a do-or-die level for that reason. And then in terms of levels of resistance, main battleground to watch, that area right there at about the dollar mark, give or take a little bit. But you can see right here, price tried twice to make surges back upwards and was rejected right at that level. But like I said, it's hanging in there by the skin of its teeth. Can it curl back upwards? We'll see what happens. Next one, DRMA. This is a very, very ugly looking chart, but for you longer time viewers, you know what I'm going to say next. There can be opportunity in the ugly, but to think that it gapped up here, to think that it went up there, and to think that there were some poor souls that bought right there. Hopefully they had a stop loss in, because yeah, after that, it got very, very ugly. However, now what makes this interesting is where the price decided to go sideways. And as I've said, does sideways mean guaranteed bottom? No. Does sideways make it plausible to suggest that maybe some sort of bottom is occurring? Absolutely. And then in this situation, the sideways action just happened to start to occur right at that purple line there, the 50-period moving average. So you get these couple different components. That still does not give you a guarantee, but it gives you an argument of plausibility that maybe, just maybe, there's some sort of bottom here forming, and when everybody else says wave the white flag because this chart is totally ugly, maybe that's when the psychology changes and there's some sort of bounce that occurs. So if you enjoy playing these sorts of opportunity in the ugly circumstances, you're a disciplined trader, then definitely keep an eye on it. Next one here, TSLA Tesla, and this will mean a little bit more of those of you that have watched the past videos, but the levels that I mapped out have played out perfectly today. So when you look at the start of the day, price came up here, broke through that area of resistance, beautiful breakout all the way up to that second level of resistance. However, this one actually acted as resistance and back down it went. The problem is it came down and then broke back down below the area. So at that point, the question becomes, okay, is that going to start acting as another area of resistance? Once again, that level being 280. And we did get our answer. And yes, it did start to act as resistance, both there, and then there once again. So any sort of attempted move back upwards, we have the levels same as yesterday that I talked about. Initial area of resistance, 280. Second level of resistance up there at $290.50. As far as areas of support are concerned, new key level. Yes, we have this level down here, but I'm curious about this trend line right here. Can this trend line right here start to provide some sort of support? So let's get that green and make it look a little different. There we go. So ideally, you want to see the price stay above that trend line. If that doesn't hold, no guarantees, but I also personally would not be shocked, especially if it's a high volume break of that trend line, if that were to send the price back down to do battle with this 256, 50-ish area down here. But one hurdle at a time, because to be fair, as of now, the price hasn't even tested that trend line, but those would be the main technical levels moving forward. But yeah, today overall, compared to how it acted right here, and then to give up all those gains, not a disaster of a day, but yeah, sort of a disappointment for sure if you are a bullish and, more so long on the position. So that wraps up the top 10 list. Again, if you like what you saw here and you want to learn more about the tool, then definitely get signed up for the free training. Like I said, it'll be this evening, Thursday, March 27th at 8 p.m. Eastern time. But if you cannot make it live for whatever reasons, as I discussed, go ahead, send me an email, clay@claytrader.com, and I'd be happy to send you a link to the replay. But again, if you can make it live, then definitely get signed up, and I'll see you here in just a few hours. And as far as these top 10 videos are concerned, if you enjoy, please hit that like button. And if you're looking for a very free and easy way to help support the channel, please hit that subscribe button, as it really does help out. So thanks for watching. And like I said, go get signed up for that free class, and hopefully I'll see you here in just a few hours.